Welcome everybody to the and sorry, welcome everybody to the Thought Leadership Branding 5-day challenge. My name is Bobby Umar, and I want to thank you all for being here today. It's been a lot of fun the last 4 days, and it's my 5th day, so I'm starting to get teary-eyed here. I was thinking about, oh man, Melanie and Chelsea and Rebecca, like all the fun times we've had. Like I'm just gonna. It's too much for me to take. I'm like a parent letting his kids go. Like, okay, off to college, you guys. All right. So if I get emotional at the end, just don't mind me. All right. So let's get going today. And thanks so much for coming. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, but let's dive right into it. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Actually, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if I can change my name here. There we go. Okay, that's better. Change my name. There we go. I have a child crawling behind me. Okay. All right. Let's get going. I'm going to share my screen, and you let me know if you can see the screen. Okay, everybody can see this? Excellent, excellent. All right, all right, Thought Leadership Branding, day 5, personal branding for focus, clarity, and direction. Whoops. So how can you use the knowledge for today? Well, personal branding is all about managing your name, whether you own a business or not, right? So people look at your personal brand, they know who you are, and they know a lot about you just because of your name. So it's important for you to manage the name and own that brand that you have. And again, your brand is everywhere, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether you have a website, whether it's in your email signature, whether you do message with people, that's part of your brand experience. You have a podcast or you do a video content. All these pieces contribute to your brand out there in the world. And that's an important thing to understand. And as I said before, the first day, knowledge doesn't equal results. So you have to ask yourself, what would I do if I weren't afraid, and then go do it? Because part of my goal here for these 5 days is to impress upon you the importance of everything with thought leadership branding, and why mindset and confidence at the beginning holds us back. And then giving you all the content, theories, and strategies that you need. Now, today, I'm going to talk about why personal branding aligns it all and sends you off in the right direction. So who's this for? Again, most of you have seen this before. You're a leader, executive entrepreneur, or even a passionate learner. You want more impact with your work. You want to basically have more focus, alignment, impact with your legacy and story with the world. In the next 16 minutes, I'm going to talk about why personal branding is important. I'm going to talk about how COVID-19 relates, how to dive in and start. So I'm going to talk about my signature process for this. I'm going to talk about the discover, design, deliver, and design path of personal branding. And then I'm going to share with you, I think, the next best step. And then Q&A and coaching, of course, afterwards. So in these 5 days, we've covered mindset and confidence building. We've covered building valuable content. We've covered branded storytelling. We've covered building relationships online. And these three, the two, 3, and 4, are really important in terms of strategies and tactics. The first one is the foundation of your mindset and confidence, and the last one is all about the focus and where we're going to go. And then we'll share the next step. And of course, you've been getting the replays. I shared all 4 replays last night, so hopefully most of you are caught up. My promise to you here is that I'm going to give you the insight, strategies, and tactics to help you use your personal brand to build your thought leadership brand with more clarity, focus, purpose, direction, and impact. Why am I doing this? Well, because my why statement is there are lost, stuck, or unfulfilled leaders everywhere. Everywhere I go, I meet people who feel lost in their career, stuck in the job, or unfulfilled in their relationships or their work. And so everything I'm doing, from this content, this program, my other programs, my coaching, my speaking, everything I'm doing is all about helping these people. It even works with my kids. A bit about myself, same things before, professional speaker, 1,000 talks around the world, author 3 books, founder of DYPB, but I was also named a Twitter marketing rock star alongside Gary Vaynerchuk, Guy Kawasaki, and Neil Patel, who are all personal branding experts. And I was also named a top 25 social selling influencer out of 1,000 people, and I was ranked 16th overall. My career path has been very diverse, but once I found my path and my purpose to be an entrepreneur, that's what everything kind of took off. And so it's been a diverse story of thought leadership, personal branding, and connection to the core. So let's talk about personal branding. I mean, I want to start out by actually asking you, what does personal branding even mean to you? Like, what does it mean to you? When you think personal branding, what does that mean? So put that in the comment box so I kind of understand what it is. Or you can even annotate if you want. If anyone's an annotate person, you can always annotate things. what is it? Okay. Look at me. Look at my terrible writing. Okay, I'm gonna take that out. All right. Let's see what people are saying. Okay, people are saying, okay, thought, what does personal branding mean to you? Personal branding, how do you define it? Knowing your authentic self, living it privately and publicly. Okay. Any other thoughts on what personal branding means to you? Define it for me. I want to know what you think. You hear it all the time. You're like, well, I don't know, personal brand. What is it? So put it. Yeah, go ahead. If you're in, just please mute yourself. And we're asking the question: what does personal branding mean to you? What does it mean? Coming across as consistent, coherent, and with something to say. Okay, thank you, Emily. Anyone else? How you show up in the world. Okay, making your story meaningful. Okay, great. All right, these are good. If someone is unmuted, make sure you mute yourself. Actually, I can also do that. So let me see if I can mute everybody so that can we mute all. There we go. There we go. So, you know, here's a brand, McDonald's. I used to love McDonald's. But let's say there's McDonald's and there's Joe's Burgers over there. And I see some more people sharing in what they think of personal branding is. I mean, which one do you go to? Do you go to McDonald's or do you go to Joe's Hamburgers? And again, as I'm talking, you can certainly type stuff in the chat box. So I want to hear what you say. Where do you go? Well, you know, when I was a kid, I would go to McDonald's all the time because it's what I grew up with and I loved it and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed McDonald's. Well, you know, I just did. But maybe one day you went to Joe's and you're like, this is the most amazing burger I've ever had in my life. And next thing you know, you're brand loyal to Joe's Hamburgers. Forget about McDonald's. Or maybe McDonald's did something that really upset you or bothered you. Like, oh, they did this thing and they coerced our kids into eating too much candy or something. And so you go to Joe's Hamburgers where you know Mr. Joe and he's a nice guy and you know his wife. And so there you go. But other people choose McDonald's because you know what you're going to get, which is what Chelsea said. Exactly. Now, branding is important because ultimately it's a living entity and it's a product of 1,000 small gestures. Everything you've done in your life is all about branding. So from the moment you were born, whether you were a crier or a yeller or a screamer or a bleeder, that was your brand. And now when you're older, you're like, well, you're still a cutter. You're a bleeder. You're someone who bruises easily. That's part of your brand. Or maybe you're always late, or maybe you're always dependable. But you have a brand now because we all have a brand. It's how people see us and perceive us. Now, I define personal branding as a promise to deliver an unmet need. It's a collection of your emotional experience with a name, logo, or symbol. So if you look at something like Tim Hortons or Starbucks. So Tim Hortons is the Starbucks of Canada. So Tim Hortons is a coffee place in Canada. Starbucks is, of course, people know what Starbucks is. And when you think of Tim Hortons or Starbucks, what's the first thing that come to mind? Put in the chat box. What do you think of when you think of Starbucks? And if you're Canadian, what do you think of when it comes to Tim Hortons? Put that in the chat box. Let's see. I want to see what people say here. Coffee. Yeah, yeah. The third place. Okay. Familiarity, sure. Some people think it's a place to go study or work on their laptops. Fancy drinks, okay. There was a great commercial by this hockey star, Sidney Crosby here. So he's a hockey player. And he had this thing where he went to Tim Hortons and got coffees at 5 in the morning, brought the coffees and the Timbits and the donuts to his friends at the rink. And the whole idea was they were trying to say that Tim Hortons is the Canadian experience, which is like that whole that memorability piece. And so, when it comes to personal branding, it's a promise to people, but most importantly, it's what people remember about you. So remember, a brand is a promise. Okay. Now, personal branding is great because people like you, they'll listen to you, but if they trust you, they'll do business with you. So if you brand yourself as someone who's likable, that's great. If you brand yourself as someone who's trustable, that's even better because then maybe you'll be able to do some work with them. And personal branding makes you a happier person, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be happier or more fulfilled, right? You get to build your skills, gain credibility, be sought out, become happy and fulfilled as a human being. Yay! Like these are things that I think are so important. That's why personal branding is so important to me. Now, here's the research. 50% of people have truly defined their personal brand. Less than 5% are living it consistently at work each and every day. Why is that? Because it can be extremely challenging. It requires a tremendous amount of self-awareness, action, accountability. And so a lot of people just don't do it and they haven't figured it out. And all the stuff that we covered before about mindset and confidence is what holds people in their place. 70% of professionals believe they actually have defined their personal brand, and 50% believe they're living it. And there's this huge disconnect. Remember I said before when I looked at the personal brand model where most people they're trying to design their brand. It's because they haven't actually discovered it. They're designing it and they think they have it, but they actually don't exactly. Or they have 65% of it, but 35% is missing. Most of their focus often can be on self-promotion rather than the commitment to advance themselves or by serving others or investing in themselves. So why personal branding? Well, people matter, right? People will trust the relationship if you have a strong personal brand. Personal brand allows you to create more vision and impact that you can implement for yourself and for others. Recognition, you become known for your values and your thought leadership brand. It's a career catalyst to better jobs, contacts, and potential clients. And you're more memorable because you remember brands because they're top of mind. My hope is by the end of this 5-day session, you will remember me as the guy who talks about thought leadership branding, personal branding, storytelling, and mindset and confidence. And when someone asks you, hey, do you know someone that does that? Hey, yeah, I know Bobby because he did the same. That would be great, right? And part of me doing this is about putting my brand out there. So it's not an option anymore, guys. It's the powerful leadership enabler. Now, what are the benefits of a good brand? Well, recognition, trust, loyalty, market share, relationship. And typically it's meant to increase dollars, but I also say it increases happiness. And so here we have the McDonald's cheese, it's a quarter pounder with cheese. And when I was a young man, in my youth, I loved quarter pounder with cheese. And I tell you, the happiness was amazing because when that cheeseburger, I got out of the package, my mouth was watering, right? And then as soon as I moved that cheeseburger into my mouth, I could hear angels sing like, oh, and I'm about to eat this thing. And then symphonies play, la, da, 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 and I'm so happy as I'm eating this quarter pounder with cheese. Now that is a strong brand, right? So what I want to tell you is that, a relationship with a brand can be profitable both in terms of dollar value, but also in terms of happiness and the emotional experience. And if you have a strong brand, you can get to this point we talked about before called Ikigai, where you're doing what you love, you're good at it, what the world needs it, and the one to pay for it, and then you achieve Ikigai. And that's part of why personal branding is so important because it gets you that focus to where you really want to be and you really need to be. So the big question of personal brand is how do we figure it out? How do I leverage it? How do I make it memorable? And how will it greatly impact my life? So let me ask you all, what are your challenges to create more focus, alignment, and impact in your life? I know we kind of talked about it the first day, but I want to hear it again. What are your challenges to create more focus, impact, and alignment in your life? Put that in the chat box. And I apologize in advance. We're starting late, so we may go over the 5:30 time for the content piece, but I will stick around as long as I need to talk to you. So put in the chat box, what are your challenges to get more focus and alignment impact in your life? Kind of want to understand that. On Monday, it would have been confidence. Okay, good. But you're saying confidence is better now? Available time still the biggest factor? Yeah, we have to kind of figure out how we're going to navigate that time. I think that's important. Any other stuff? Time. Yeah, time's a big one. Trouble staying focused. Okay. Clarity on my central connecting theme. Okay, good. These are really good ones. Thank you. Okay. Well, and personal brand is designed to actually help you figure that stuff out, right? And that's why this is the last one. I want to talk briefly about how COVID-19 affects us. First off, a lot of us are working from home more, right? So it affects our time management. It affects our focus. It affects a lot of things that we don't even realize. And I got to admit that ever since COVID hit, I've gained weight working from home. So that's really happened to me, working from home more. We're also going through transitions, right? A lot of us are trying to pivot as an entrepreneur, or even pivot as a career person. We're trying to think about where we want to go next, or what we want to do as well, or maybe I want to find a better family life balance that I'm enjoying during COVID. So we're thinking about these things. We're also seeing data that shows that there's diminishing trust in the global world online. So whether it's online news or online connection or online whatever, virtual doesn't really help with the trust. So that's why we have to find a way to get through that trust and break through that trust with different tactics like storytelling and personal branding and creating great content and authenticity. And ergo, your online presence matters more. This is the time for you to stay at home time. Do you want to transition, enhance your branding, build that greater trust? And this is the time is ripe now to do this, particularly for 2021, to get out there and make this happen for yourself. And again, I've said before, time to start, but how? You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And it takes time. And that's why, when I want to work with people, it takes time. It doesn't happen in one session. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And of course, thought leadership branding, as you know, I love talking about this. We've already talked about these 8 amazing people, so I'm not going to go through it in great detail. But again, the 3 concepts of thought leadership branding is building broad relationships, followers, and deep relationships. Generating and creating awesome ideas, innovating, and creating new content. Mastering your communication, speaking, storytelling skills, both written and spoken. And the more you develop all 3, the more achievement impact you will have with whatever you're trying to do. Whether you're looking for a job, whether you're trying to build leads for your business, whether you're trying to just put together a content marketing strategy. And so why is thought leadership so important? Well, as I said before, it's about being an expert with a solid reputation and having a huge network where you own a conversation. And then you're memorable, opportunities come to you, and you have more confidence. And you build authority. Thought leadership means you're building authority for whatever field you're in. It doesn't matter what field you're in. If you're a shoemaker, you can be the authority in the shoemaking field. If you are a bug collector, you can be the authority in bug collection. And I've used social media as my tool to get over 500,000 followers and 10 million views on LinkedIn. That's kind of what I've done. And I think other people can use social media too for that type of thing. So we talked yesterday about the whole idea of I am, right? And I see people have focus and clarity and demands from different engagements. That's fine. We talked about connection with the self and how it's hard for us to do this. And people were sharing some of the things they're doing to be more connected with the self. I think it's important to understand, but this is what branding is. Personal branding is connection with the self. Now, I wanted to just throw in top 5 tips for being a brand and thought leader. I mean, number 1, know your expertise. That's why personal branding matters. Start writing, publishing, sharing. If you have a personal brand and you have a confidence, you will be more focused and aligned and create some really great stuff. You then flesh out your social media profiles to ramp up the brand, make sure they're optimized, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, whatnot. You speak at online events for now and develop case studies and stories around who you are and what you're doing, and that builds your thought leadership brand. And then, of course, you network online and build relationships, which is why yesterday your homework was to reach out to 5 people and start building relationships. And again, this is laying the groundwork, planting the seeds, position yourself to reap the benefits. And your brand is everything. You don't have to be different, and you have to be different, greater first. If you're not first, don't worry about it. You can still be different or great. And I cannot emphasize this point more. I love this quote and I love this phrase. It's so important. Your brand is everything about you. And so we want to make sure it's as good as it possibly can be. And you know, when I talk about DYPB and what we do, we know that every individual and organization wants more focus, alignment, and impact with their lives and with their work. And so that's why the discover, design, deliver process is so important for you to understand. And you know, we do a lot of workshops on personal branding, EI, behavioral styles, storytelling, presentation, lots of other things too. So if people are interested in that, they can certainly reach out to our organization. And we have a course, we've done webinars, we've done all these really awesome things that are really fantastic. And we have this model because most people spend their time on design their brand, but they don't take the time to discover their brand. If you really do the work on the discovery piece, then the design part becomes far more focused, more aligned, and more impactful, which means you get the results you need and you feel more focused and confident and you actually feel more fulfilled. So that's why we focus on this model as a tool for you to get to where you want to go. Just a second here, okay. Just give me a moment here. Okay. There we go. All right, so, okay. Yeah, the discovery piece does take a lot of time. I agree with you. But again, are you willing to invest 20, 30, 50, 100 hours of your time for 500,000 hours of fulfillment, happiness, joy, impact, and clarity? If you are, then it's a good investment. It's the same thing with working out. Like someone told me this once, Bobby, are you willing to put in 50 hours of time to be in the best shape of your life? I'm like, wow, 50 hours. When you see it like that, it doesn't seem so much. Did I put in the 50 hours? No, but I should have. But you know, one time on my journey, I actually put in the time. You know, 3 times a week working out. That was like 4 hours a week, and pretty soon that 4 hours became 8 and 12 and 16. And you know, by the time I hit 20 hours, I was seeing some major results, and that was really fantastic, right? That was a fantastic thing to have. So let's talk about how to determine your personal brand. I'm going to give you kind of a very brief, high level overview of what I would do and how I work with people to figure this out. And it's also the stuff that's in that comprehensive course I mentioned, but this is how it works. So, one thing to keep in mind is, what they currently think of you, what you want them to think of you, and what you don't want them to think of you. This is the brand of you. So if you're always late Larry, right? Is there a Larry in the crowd? Maybe always late Lenny. Let's say you're always late. How do you fix that? How do you change that? Well, stop being late and be on time, be early. And what's really interesting is that statistically, you have to, if you want to change your brand, you have to be always late Lenny has to be on time or early between 6 to 13 times in a row before the brand starts to change. That's a lot. So let's say he's on number 8 in a row, and then all of a sudden he's late. Oh, there's always late Lenny again. Darn, Lenny, why always late? And you start all over again. So 6 to 13 times is what you need. So you want to start knowing what it is, so you can start working on where you want to be. Now, I'm going to show you my signature process, and I'll show you exactly how it works. But the most important piece with personal branding is you're trying to invest in yourself because it's the best investment ever. And I talk about this, the best investment ever, right? 100 hours invested, 500,000 hours of happiness. Is that worth it? I certainly hope so. And when I say 100 hours, I don't even mean 100 hours up front. It's usually 20, 30, 40 hours up front. And then every year you spend another 10 hours or every so often you check your brand and you put another 10 hours in here. Let's say putting together a good resume or a good profile. It takes time and energy. But when you do it, man, the results are incredible. Just people are just not willing to do it though. The more you invest the time into your brand, the more you discover your worth. And you also discover your value. And everyone else will know your value too. And there's a great, for those who are old as me or older, you may have known back in the day, the old Coca-Cola soft drink bottles, and pop bottles, and soda bottles would have a thing on the top that said no deposit, no return. So what it meant was you took the bottle, you gave it back to the store, and they would give you like 10, 15, 25 cents for each bottle. But that philosophy applies to personal branding. If you don't deposit anything in your personal brand journey, you get nothing in return. If you put a ton in, you get a ton back in return. That's why it's so important. So step one of personal branding is whatever you think it is, let's wipe the slate clean. So even if I know Bobby's a people guy, I'm going to forget about that, and I'm just going to start the process clean to learn it. And so what you do is you look at 4 key areas to target. You do your own assessment of yourself. You do the assessment of others. You do online computer assessment, where I think someone in the chat box mentioned the DISC program. Yeah, the DISC could work for the third part. And then review all the experience stories of your life to extract the personal brand. More specifically, you look at personality traits, values, interests, skills, and experiences. And from that, we can extract the personal brand. So first off is personality traits, and there's many out there. There's different personality tools and I remember I met these group of people in 1994, and it was the first time I did Myers-Briggs, and I was like, wow, it was such an incredible experience to do this process and see myself written on a page, to know my strengths and my weaknesses, what I'm good at, what I don't like. I loved it. And so it's a guideline for you to figure these things out. And I recommend the top 3 as your 3 to go, but DISC is pretty good too. I mean, it's only 4 things, so it's not as comprehensive, but it's still helpful for people. Someone just asked, what's my Myers-Briggs? Well, you'll find out in like a second. And each of these personality tools have their own benefits, but all of them offer useful insights and guidance to know your personality. So I'm an ENFP, the idealist champion, extroversion, intuitive, feeling, and perceiving. That's me. And so knowing this actually helps me understand a bit more about, how I can relate to people and how I can actually be a better leader. And so when I did my personal brand journey, I found out my personality traits, my top traits were social, enthusiastic, and honest. That's my top 3 right there. Then we look at values. What are values? Well, they're basically a set of belief or criteria that are important to us. And they're unique to each person. And it comes from your background, your upbringing, your life experience, personal philosophies. So I grew up with my family, so maybe family is important to me. I may have had life experiences that were nature related, so I really love nature. I love hugs, and so my personal philosophy is I'm a really huggy guy, even though some people aren't, and that's fine. But these are things that are part of our values and who we are. And there are 3 main types that are related to your professional personal growth: intrinsic, the warm fuzzy feelings, extrinsic, money, status, power, lifestyle, busy lifestyle, calm lifestyle, healthy lifestyle. And your values are a point of difference that are constantly evolving. Like my values evolved after I had kids, my values evolved after I became an entrepreneur. So because you're changing, they will also change. So when I did my top values, my top three were love, balance, and friendship. This is one me doing my own personal brand journey back in the day. Interests. These are basic things you enjoy doing or are curious about learning. And the more they're aligned, the more you motivated you are. But like if your interests are aligned, the more motivated you are, which is why when I worked as a design engineer in aerospace design, I didn't like it at all. My interests weren't aligned at all. And they change as you do. So it gives you insight into your strengths and your needs. And what you look at is you look at what you do as an interest based and what you yearn to do. So for example, even though I don't do photography, I love it. And even though I don't do rock climbing, I enjoy it. So I yearn to do those things. So those also count. And there's a really great interest grid where you look at things that are task oriented versus people oriented, or things that are direct involvement versus indirect involvement. So I was over here. I was 100% people oriented, and I was almost near the top of being directly involved. And so when I looked at this grid, the communicator, selling, promoting, persuading, motivating, counseling, work with people, yeah, totally me. And when I read the other side, scheduling, doing detailed work, working with numbers and systems, I start to shudder. There's a chill down my back, like, oh my God, I would never want to do that. I would hire someone to do that. But some of you may love the red, the blue, and the yellow sections, and that's totally cool because that's who you are, right? And that's totally fine. Anybody here, where would you guys all be? I mean, which one do you see yourself in? Is someone in red? Kind of put in the comment box. I'm curious. Red, yellow, blue, green. Which one do you really feel you fit? Oh, there's a red. Oh, there's any yellows? I'm looking for yellow. Green, red. Okay, blue. Any no yellows? Oh, green, blue. I'm still waiting for a yellow. Okay, looks like we have no administrative types here. Red, blue. Holy cow. Okay, no yellow folks. Well, they're important people too. So okay. I like a number part. Yeah, okay, some people you seem doesn't like the yellow things. Okay, fair enough. I will stop bugging you about that then. All right, orange in the middle. Okay, that's good. That's a good idea. Okay, great. Next step is skills, right? So these are aptitudes developed from patterns of interest, activities, and successes. So a natural tendency to skills, learn skills. Like, I learned to ride a bike. I learned to eat at buffets. Special skills. I can actually take a buffet plate and pile the food up so high that I never have to go back again. And then there's other skills you're always developing, which is, my ability to eat a chicken wing in one bite. But that probably hasn't served me well. But I have other skills, storytelling, speaking, branding, coaching, so we all have these different skills that we can develop and work on. So the question then is, what are your aptitudes and things that you love, and what are you good at? Which ones do you like? That's important. So when I look at my skills and interests, here's what I came up with. My top 3 interests: counseling, performing, hosting. My top skills were analyzing, calculating, coaching. Now what's interesting is that if you notice this, they're different. And I think my top skills came from the work I was doing as an engineer before I got into brand marketing and before I became a professional speaker. Now, some of them are similar, right? Like, here's counseling and influencing that are here and up here, but a lot of them are different. So this brings an important point when it comes to your personal brand journey. Just because you're good at it doesn't mean you like it. I spent years as an engineer. I spent years doing analytics. I spent years in brand marketing doing Excel sheets and things like that. And I wasn't good at those things. I didn't like doing those things, but I did do those things. And the next part is about diving into your experience stories. So we look at the experience, knowledge, and achievements you've had in your life. We look at the success from the application of your skills. We look at the acknowledgments and awards and key results you've had. We look at the story and the feelings behind those experiences. What are things that you've done that made you feel good? Like if you look at if something that you're really proud of that you've been through, what are those things? Right? I'm really proud of my kids. I'm really proud of, I put together a scholarship for a student of mine who had passed away from cancer. These are things that make me proud. And when I think about why, it helps me understand which experience stories of my life are important to me. So what you would do is you focus on any achievements that you're most proud of. That's really how it works. So when I look at my personal experience stories, I was a musical theater guy. I ran a musical theater company. I performed it. I loved being on stage. It was so fun. Shad Valley was a program for gifted high school kids. And so I would go teach them and work with them and engage them. And I just found that just really fulfilling. When I did my MBA at McMaster, I was the MBA Association president. I ran a lot of stuff there. I was heavily involved. I did case competitions. And so it really sparked my confidence again. And then brand marketing, I love the people. I love the work I was doing. It was actually kind of fun. It was very exciting, and particularly from a people standpoint. And then, of course, entrepreneurship. When I was in high school, I did junior achievement. Did SHAD, which is entrepreneurial. I was a family entrepreneur. And so those things were kind of important to me. And the new thing for me has always been entrepreneurship and parenting. These are part of my journey that are also very important to me. So when I look at these experience stories in my life, they tell me a lot about who I am and what I love. And so you can do the exact same thing too, to see what are the things what are the best moments of your life that were so important to you. So then it comes time to extract your brand. And so when you do all that work, and obviously we're not going to do it today, but you can do it in the course or with other work. But what you do is once you do that deep dive, and what you do is you diverge on all these different things with analysis, feedback from your friends, colleagues, feedback from the online assessments, and then you converge with all this information, and then you diverge and you converge onto what are some of the common themes, what are the threads within the stories, any words, ideas, and images that stand out, and you brainstorm all relatable and exciting words for these. So your personal brand is what everyone gets or expects from you. It's your promise to them. And so this is usually where people get stuck. So this is where coaching comes into play. So if you need a coach, this is where a coach can help you figure this stuff out. So whenever people get to that whole part, I help them kind of converge on some of the key themes. So when I do that, I look at all this stuff. Here's my top personality traits, my top values, my top interests, my top skills, and all of my experience stories in my life that are important to me. And from that, I came up with 5 threads: people, nurturing, helping, influencing, presenting, performing, variety, balance, and big city living. That's what I came up with. That made sense to me. Because all of these are fed by all these things that are here. And these are what I call my top 5 personal brand elements. There's another one here that's missing, which is diversity. So I took the personal stories, people, nurturing, I took the 5 different things I had, and I started brainstorming different words. So people, relationships, connector, love, friend, pal, fun, Bobby, all that kind of stuff. Nurturing, counseling, healing, hug, affection, support. Variety, balance, spontaneity, exciting, never dull, change, trailblazer. And the variety balance is interesting because that's why I was so bored of my job as an engineer, because I was doing the same thing every single day and I was bored. And big city living is what I originally had, although now in recent years it's become diversity. I like the entrepreneur thing. I like lots of people. I like the urban living. And there's a lot of diverse things that I can do. And diversity is kind of how I define it now. So what you do is you come up with your top 5 to 10 brand elements, personal brand elements, and you come up with a personal brand statement. What you're best at, the value you provide, who you serve, the audience you serve, and how you do unique selling proposition. And I came up with Bobby Umar as a dynamic connector who nurtures people to discover the purpose and authentic journey to achieve personal and professional leadership. Okay. Let's make it a little bit better. I changed it up. I said, let me think outside the box. Bobby Umar is the beacon of light who finds lost leaderships and brings them to shore to start an authentic leadership journey of passion and purpose. Far more interesting, far more easy to see, easy to read. So that's why I like that one so much, because it definitely gives you a sense of what's going on and how it works and who I am and how I help people. And so that's how I came. And so, you want to try to keep your statement punchy, memorable, and real. And then, of course, you can do further work on your purpose statement, your why statement, your mission and vision. I'm not going to get into that here. That stuff is covered in my deeper courses, but that's another part of the whole personal branding journey. And so once you have your personal brand, that's when once you know yourself, you can start to show yourself. You can start to grow yourself and start to put a brand out there and build that thought leadership brand. And so personal brand allows you to discover your voice. It allows you to know your story. It allows you to know what your brand is. So you can put it out there in a much more aligned, focused, impacted way. So how do we leverage this for thought leadership? Well, I mean, if you know this, you can start to understand the brand of others when you meet them. You can give others an authentic voice. You can invest in everyone's story when you meet them and talk to them. Kind of like the way I do with this whole program. I've been trying to do this. I'm trying to understand your brand, help you give your voice by working on your confidence, your mindset, invest in your story, where you are, where you're trying to go. Like I'm trying to understand these things so I can help you. And remember, the best investment is in you. Invest in yourself. There's no greater investment than doing that. I think it's so important. A lot of people don't realize that. And so the more a better you is a better everything else. And I always say to people, fight for your life, right? Fight for the life you want, for your career, fight for the life you want for your health, fight for your life that you want for your career, your business, the people you know, the places you want to live, right? If not now, when? If not you, then who? And don't let those excuses and those mindset pieces hold you back, because and the doubts and fears, because with the right kind of situation, you can do a really good job. So let's talk about next steps, shall we? So remember when I talked about in the first week about the pains, right? The things that stop us from moving forward, mindset and confidence. We have to understand that the three pains that affect our confidence, right? Emotional pain, financial pain, relationship pain. And the truth is, this is true in all our lives. And whether you can admit to it or not, but we all have these challenges, and they manifest in symptoms which we've talked about before. And so it's important to have to find community in this. Now, there are some successful people that I know that have done really well, and they become my friends. And Amber Mack is one of those people. There are a few people that will make it. There's a few of you who will overcome the confidence challenges and find success, happiness, fulfillment, impact, and legacy. And I worked with someone like Amber. In fact, I did a session with her yesterday on Clubhouse. And I'm really grateful to have people like her and many more of them as my friends and colleagues. And there are several things that set them apart. Here's Mike Burkich. And actually, he's good because if you look at that cover photo, that tells you what he believes in, right? Amber is all about technology and putting your brand out there. Mike is all about community and connection with his tribe. And that's really awesome. So I think it's a really important thing for people to know. Oh, someone mentioned my camera's off. So let me just fix that. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So, there's what sets these people apart? Well, a few things, right? The people that make it, they have developed strong emotional maturity, right? What this means, they're able to make decisions that are not influenced by emotion, because emotions wreak havoc on your confidence, right? They've discovered, learned, and processed ways to manage these emotions, no matter what they are, and not let them sabotage the decision. They've worked with their emotional maturity to a higher level, and this allows them to make better decisions and act on those decisions. So, if we look at what are the traits of those who make it, they have that emotional maturity. The second trait is they have valued relationships, right? The people who make it, they create, attract, sustain, and grow valued relationships. And this is what I define as building proper relationships, right? So they can grow long-term relationships. They can leverage and support them for large parts of their lives. Their confidence builds confidence in others, and they create several of these powerful connections by adding value and love proactively, strategically. They even create value in every interaction, and even more so outside of their normal interactions. People start to see and crave the value they provide to their community. Eventually, these people become thought leaders in their industry, their community, amongst their friends. They start to exist more in the headspace and mindset of others. And eventually, these profitable relationships mean that people will send you opportunities for your career or business with confidence. Thus, a person sending you business also becomes literally a profitable relationship. The third one is financial literacy. This is basically having all your basic stuff sorted out, like government docs and your taxes, learning what's costly, having a biz model, revenue model defined, having a means of sustainability for your career or scalability for your business. And all these people have a supportive community or a personalized coach or both. So now when you think about the few who've made it and you look at the journey they've had, or if you look at the journey where you are, what do you see? And the idea is to kind of reflect on your own habits and your own patterns, to see where you are right now, to learn what's driving you forward, what is keeping you stagnant, or even what is holding you back going backward. This requires a heightened sense of awareness and emotional intelligence. Most of the few who have made it built their self-awareness muscles. It requires an emotional maturity, which I mentioned, that is not held back by limiting beliefs, but rather held firm by a steady and strong growth mindset. And that journey towards greater confidence addresses this gap and will get you to that next level you so much desire. So a big glaring question remains: why haven't you achieved what you set out to do? And I want you to write this down. Okay, do it right now on a piece of paper. You don't do it in the chat box. Do it right now for yourself on a piece of paper. Just take time to think about this for a second. Now, there are 3 things you can do right now to change your circumstances, build your confidence, and get to where you want to go. Number 1, surround yourself with people who care about you and with caring people and community. One quality of those who've made it ambitious or more ambitious was people who support their goals, people who have experience and knowledge to help them. Number 2, getting support when you need it. So you got to be able to ask the right people the right questions, have access to the right resources. And number 3, finding the right mentor or coach to help you along the way. And I can tell you that all 3 of these things have been just incredible in terms of my journey and what has it done for me, right? Because I'm very ambitious. Whether you're ambitious or not, these people will support your goals. These people are the ones with the right experience and knowledge. They're the anchor in your growth of confidence and your ultimate success. There's a group of people with whom you aspire to be like, people who are already 10 steps ahead of you. So that's why it's so good to have that type of network. So the question I ask you is, what would it be like if you could take your engagement and thought leadership brand or path to the next level? What would it look like in 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year? And you can imagine that you engage your colleagues at work with more confidence. You can imagine, and maybe actually I'll ask you this one, put this in the chat box. What would it be like if you take your engagement and thought leadership brand or path to the next level? Put that in the chat box. Would you be more impactful at the workplace? Would you engage people more confidently? How would it impact your life? I'm just curious. What would you say? Just type in the chat box. He would be the next Bobby Umar. Living the dream life. Okay. I mean, I would see certainly a lot of impact, more impact of what I'm doing for sure. Making a difference in people's lives and your own lives. Yeah, for sure. Because making a difference could be just for yourself or for other people. I agree with that. I think that's a good point. Any other thoughts? Build more profitable relationships. Yes. Thank you. Helping people, others to be successful. Yes. Too many notifications. You might feel overwhelmed. Living your purpose, you'll be fulfilled. Yeah. I mean, and fulfillment's so powerful, right? I mean, I would have taken a pay cut at any of my jobs to be more happy and fulfilled than being in a toxic space. I think we all can understand that. We all can agree that. Supporting more people to succeed, absolutely. So I worked with this one friend, Janelle Morrison, and she was struggling to start her own business and start a career. And she wrote me this really nice testimony, which was kind of nice, which was really great. I cannot possibly say enough about the clarity, purpose, and direction Bobby is providing for me in growing my business from the ground up. I learned something new and important from him with every interaction, and his input has been and will continue to be critical in the growth of my business and career. Bobby's the king of strategy. Not only that, he's kind, warm, thoughtful. Aw, that's nice. Gives a bit like, well, hugs are, that's fine. Bobby is quite simply the real deal in his ability to coach lost leaders towards becoming thought leaders. Thank you, Janelle. That was very kind of you. So would you like to be one of those success stories and start making serious improvements around career or business that you love? That's why thought leadership branding is so important, and that's why I really want to help you. So I have many programs out there. I have my storytelling program, my networking mastery program, my speaker mastermind program, my new personal branding program. But I want to actually create something, and the personal branding program is great. I mean, it's an online course, 25 videos, 30 plus exercises, 20 hours of homework materials, $9.97 value. It's a really amazing program. And we're really proud of that because it's basically the discovery piece of the personal branding model that I talked about. But I want to create something just for you, something that has all that you need. Surround yourself with care, people and community, gain the support when needed, and find the right mentor or coach, right? So my final question to you is then, with the right support, people, and knowledge, can you achieve your goals? You can write that down too if you want. That's what you need. So yes and yes, agreed, and more empathy, that's good. So I'd like to invite you on a journey to build your confidence, to build your mindset, and to build your success and fulfillment. Absolutely. There you go. So here's what I've created for you. I put together so what I'm going to do, the next step is really I put together a thought leadership personal branding program. Everything you need to get started. And I'm going to start this thing on the first week of March, 2021. Let me share you kind of what it entails. Number one, you get lifetime access to the online discovery course that I mentioned before, with the 30 videos, 30 exercises, and 20 hours of homework. You'll also get an 8-week group coaching session with me, Okay, and just in case you didn't know, like my standard coaching rate is $300 an hour, but so it's a group coaching session, but we work together and we keep you focused and accountable, and you can submit all your questions there. I'm going to take it even further. You get 1 year access to my exclusive and private coaching community, which is a $720 value, because it's a $60 a month community that people are part of. And what's even great about this is that within that coaching community, there is a weekly 30-minute call. There are weekly tips. You're allowed to ask any question, give any feedback, share a post, share a project, share something you feedback on, and me and everyone else will support your journey. And that is awesome. So, invitation for you, I want to invite you to work with me by going to this http bit.ly/DYPB gold. You got to use the proper cases too. So it's all capital DYPBG and then OLD. And let me actually give you some extras. If you want to sign up for my first cohort on this is my first cohort. I'm really excited about this actually. So here's some extras you're going to get for signing up before March 1st. I'm also going to throw in my entire 12-module networking mastery program. It's all online. And the first 12 people who sign up, I know there's 157 people registered for this 5-day thought leadership program, but the first 12 people who sign up are going to get extra. You're also I'm going to throw in my 2-hour storytelling workshop, which is a 2-hour deep dive into helping you craft a story for either for your LinkedIn profile, for your blog site, or even for your own personal video reel. I'm also going to throw in 2 more extra group coaching sessions. And so the total value is now at $6,000 plus, and the sign-up cost for this entire program is $1,997. If you want to sign up, I invite you to join me and work with me at bit.ly/DYPB gold. All right, so homework and worksheets. So we talked about the homework, which was self-confidence assessment, the fears assessment, the mindset exercise, the content exercise. I asked you to research frameworks for stories in terms of your lifeline, the 3-minute brand story and best practices. I asked you to send a connection request to 5 people you want to connect with, and make sure you give them a contextual message, like why you're reaching out to them. Don't just don't be creepy. And then the last piece is to give you a personal branding audit worksheet. So I'll send you that tonight. Basically what it is to audit exactly where you are in your personal brand journey to give you a sense of where you are and what are some of the gaps and opportunities for you to grow. And the idea here again is to lay the groundwork, plant the seeds, and position yourself to reap the benefits, because ultimately I want to work with you. And let me just make sure I chat box here, and maybe my son who's on the community. Son, can you go back and put the link back in the chat box? That would be great. All right, let's keep going. So yeah, this is the homework for you guys. Okay. And again, going back to the challenge we talked about before, like creating a post on social media. Today I tagged a bunch of you. Yeah, I think we should all tag one another. Like, why not? Let's tag each other and help each other grow as this community that we're creating, because I think it's going to go a long way. I think that would be a really awesome thing to have, and so I encourage all of you to do that. Sorry, I'm just reading that some people are commenting. I just want to make sure I read all the comments. Now did you actually? Excellent. All right, let's keep going. And so again, what is next, right? We've already covered day 1, mindset conflict building. Day 2, creating valuable content. Day 3, storytelling. Day 4, building relationships online. Day 2, 3, and 4 about the tactics of things you want to be able to do and put yourself out there. Day 1 is about the foundation for your mindset and your confidence. And I see a bunch of questions, but I'll be able to send you answer questions second. And then day 5 is using personal branding to create more clarity, focus, and direction. That's really about the focus and pointing you in the right direction. And then, of course, we've already talked about the next step, which is the new Thought Leadership Branding program. So lifetime access to the discovery course, 8-week group coach session with me starting in March, 1 year access to my exclusive private coaching community, my 12-module networking mastery program as a bonus. The first 12 signups get the storytelling workshop and 2 extra group coaching sessions. So there's a lot there. The offer, $19.97. Invitations here. So I hope you'll consider that. I invite you to work with me and reach out, and I'm looking forward to having a bunch of people that in this community that we're trying to build there and work with you together. So some final thoughts before we close off for the Q&A and the coaching piece. Your personal brand is the only thing you're going to have. Your reputation online and the new business world is pretty much the game. So you've got to be a good person. You can't hide anything. and more importantly, you've got to be out there and be out there at some level in order to crush it. Okay. Good leaders develop ideas. Great leaders develop people, but the best leaders develop new leaders. And that is exactly why I'm here. That's why you are my why statement. This is what my purpose is. And I'm here to help people build great relationships, build great ideas and content, build better skills in storytelling, speaking, communication, and writing, so you can be the best thought leaders you can be. That's what I'm here for. It's my purpose. And again, as we all know, Maya Angelou, people will never forget how you made them feel. You make me feel empowered. I hope I can make you feel empowered and focused on what you want to do, what you need to do. And again, you got to want it, right? Like we started at the very beginning. Knowing's not enough. We must apply. Willing's not enough. We must do. So there we are. There's my contact information. Oops. There's my contact information. I will say it's covered by this thing, but that's okay. Just a summary of the Thought Leadership Personal Writing Program. But there's my email, my cell, Clubhouse, and Twitter and Instagram. And there's my website, dypb.ca, around.com. And then you can follow me across all different platforms. All right, so that's it for the content portion of today. But now I'm going to go to the questions and answer all your questions. Here we go. And let's see here. Lots of questions. So let me just make sure I cover some of these questions. Okay. All right. There's a lot of questions. If you have more questions, you can certainly put your hand up. So you can put your hand up like this and go, hey, I want to talk. Or you put your hand up in the chat box there. It's all good. So let's see here. Question I see from Yasim: does your branding coaching program include storytelling? No. So storytelling is a separate piece. I mean, in the branding program, I will talk about the importance of storytelling, but the storytelling workshop is a separate deep dive thing that I do, right? I mean, but of course, that doesn't mean you can't actually go to the program itself already gives you access to the exclusive coaching groups. You can actually come to the coaching group and say, hey, here's my story. Can I get some feedback? And yeah, I'll give you feedback. So it still works anyways, right? But the workshop is more of a really focused one for just a small group of people, right? So that's what I would do. I put together a small group and we focus on some of your stories there. And yes, you would create your own origin story with the review. Yeah, so basically I would give you the frameworks and the structure on how to create your origin story, your 3-minute brand story. And then on the follow-up coaching call, I would actually look at it and I would actually give you critique and pick it apart. And people seem to like that when I do it. So, and I love doing it. It's actually kind of fun because I know that it's very helpful. Just like back in the day when I helped my wife, even though she tells me she's not coachable. So what are you gonna do? So let's see here, other one. Niall, thank you so much for that. Can you share more about your team? I know that well, the 30-minute sessions, to be honest, it's actually they're always going to be me, right? So when I do the 30-minute weekly sessions, so there's the coaching piece, which is we meet for an hour every week for 8 weeks. That's the coaching program. But then once you're part of the coaching Facebook group, yes, I will do another 30-minute live, and people can ask me questions there too. So you're actually getting in more than that. So the coaching program is just for the people who are in the program. The group is actually for all my clients, but some are there already. But if you're there and you're fresh and you're excited, you can ask tons of questions during those 30 minutes. So you're actually getting me for 8 coaching sessions, as well as the 30-minute weekly stuff for the full year. Okay. Hi, Bobby. Could you put the bit.ly in the comments? Okay, my son did that. Great. Thank you, son. Actually, it's not let me do it. It's bit.ly/DYPB. Go like that. There we go. Next question. Let's skip ahead here. Okay. Is it Canadian dollars? Is it tax inclusive? Good question. So this is Canadian dollars because DYPB is a Canadian company. So if you're American, whoa, the savings. If you're Canadian, again, great value anyways. But yes, there are taxes on it. Okay. Next question. Do you limit how many people in the group coaching session? That's a good question. So yeah, so one of the reasons why I said the first 12 is because if it goes beyond 12, I'm going to split them up. I think it's just easier that way. But I wanted to give the bonuses to the first 12 people to sign up because if they're willing to do it right now and invest in right now, the time is now. If not now, when? Then yeah, I think they should be. I appreciate that. So Yeah, because I don't have a group coaching. I would never have a group coaching session with like 50 people. It's just not worth it, right? It's just no one gets the time they need, right? So you have to keep it. I found 6 to 12 is like the ideal number. Emily, this has been great. Thank you. Okay, cool. Thank you. When it's a group, how many people on average are part of that week's session? Well, again, here's the thing, like 157 people signed up for this thought leadership branding course. How many people showed up? How many people showed up every day, right? So some of you showed up every single day. Some of you showed up for a couple of days. Some of you showed up never. And I understand people are busy. Maybe they're watching replays at home and they're delight. I mean, I've seen there's 20, 30 people watch the replays already. So I get that. So how many people on average? Well, it depends on how many people sign up. You know, like when I've done the storytelling workshops, I capped that at 6, and I've had 3, 4, 5, and 6 in those sessions I've done. For group coaching, it can be anywhere from 3, 5, 10, 12. Whenever I run these things, yeah, there's always people that don't show up, right? And they're missing out because that's probably the greatest value. The greatest value that comes from programs is me being able to handhold you through the entire process of the journey. And number 2, me being accessible to answer any questions you have in any moment, right? Maybe you're working late one night on Saturday on your branding stuff. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and you quickly ask a question on the coaching Facebook group, and all of a sudden 3 people and Bobby respond to it, and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome, right? Having that access. I know that one of the things I love about my coach is that when I text him, he texts back pretty quickly, which is great, because like that's what I want. I want that access to somebody where I can ask questions, right? So yeah, it's hard to. I can't really give you an average of that. I can tell you that there's a limit to it, and I would probably tell you that most people are busy and stuff. But I think that if we had a full 12 people, I would expect 6 to 9 people to show up. That's been my history with that. From what I'm doing, but it's up to you. You're the one that wants to show up and make it happen for yourself. I mean, when you sign up for a gym membership, how often do you show up to that class, right? So, and I'll tell you this much: the ones who show up and the ones who ask the questions, they're the ones that have the success. Like my best successful students across all in my coaching program, there's this guy Jose, speaker mastermind program, and he showed up. He asked questions all the time. In the Facebook group, he's asked a question all the time, and he's the most engaged person. He's the most successful one in my group, absolutely, because he's hungry, he wants it. And I'm answering all these questions. I'm even answering like really, really crazy specific taxation questions and things like that. But he's in the weeds now, and he's loving it. He's asking questions, and everyone else like, oh, I still haven't put together my speaker story, right? So that's what I'd say to that. Okay, all right, cool. So those are questions in the box. Anybody have any questions via video? You can just unmute and chat. I'm happy to answer any questions about the content today too, right? I mean, the program, sure, but the content today too. Put your hand up or just start chatting. Melanie, go ahead.
Oh, actually, somebody just posted a question. So
what? Yeah, but I'll let you go first, and I'll answer the question in the chat box.
Well, yeah, okay. I'm trying to figure out what my question is. So actually, I'm very interested in this. I went. So this is. I don't know if this is more of a one-on-one chat but I'll put it to the group. But sure. It's more of a question for you directly. Yeah. I went through a program like this recently. Best decision with obviously different person. Best decision, no regrets. Happy to do it again. I know from my experience though, I have a tendency to want to coach back. How receptive, like, I guess how much is it a two-way relationship too? How willing are you to be a guinea pig on what your attendees are learning?
That's an excellent question. I love that. So what I would tell you is that, when I do the group coaching sessions, my focus is on the people in the room to help them as best I can. Mm-hmm. But when we get to the actual exclusive group and everyone's there as a community, that's why I talked about earlier about having a community. People are there to help one another out. So even me, when I might post something, when I post like my weekly tip or I do my weekly live, there might be someone like you to say, hey, have you thought about this? And I'll be like, yeah, that's great. Like, I love that. That's why That's why I'm saying that you should have everything. You should have the coach. You should also have the community. And
Yeah.
so I'm big on that too. Like, it's not like I don't have mindset issues. I have them too. Like, sometimes I have things I want to talk about, and that's great, right? We all have different skill sets, so I'm very open to that. I think it's and that's what makes it more, to me, more magical than the ones where, and I've also been in coaching groups where it's the one grand wise person on top of the hill, giving all their wisdom, and the wisdom is fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel like I feel like I can't talk to them, right?
Well, I mean, even as an example on this, like I went to your website on day one and I'm like, I want to give this guy my money. Like I want to sign up for something and I'm your target audience. And what I was seeing there, I was like, like I was like, I want to tell you to do it this other way instead. And then what you presented here tonight is exactly what I was going to say to do.
Okay, good.
Like that was presented kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, yes, like this is great, but I don't know. I feel like that kind of, if sometimes that feels like overstepping I've gotten in trouble for that in the past for overstepping. So I need to be careful about what communities I'm in for that.
Well, I mean, again, you've all known me now for the last 5 days. I can tell you that I love feedback. I always ask for feedback. I know, I acknowledge that I have a lot of value and skills to give you, but I also acknowledge that I have things that I want to learn. And so for me, collaborative is great. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I've known Bobby for a lot longer than 5 days. And we had an amazing conversation actually this morning. And with Bobby, working with him, it's a relationship. So relationships have to be two ways, right? If you're willing to teach, you must be willing to learn. You can't go just one direction. That's a dictatorship. So yeah, and the fact that you can come with that to the table and not have that hesitation is very true with Bobby. Like, I have a question I want to ask him. You shouldn't feel like you're going to get reprimanded just for asking something. Anybody that kicked you out of previous communities, I promise you it's an egotistical thing. They kicked you out because you bruised their ego.
Oh, that I do know. That's why I try not to stay in those communities anymore.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate that.
Thank you for that.
No problem, Melanie. I have another question. So this one's from Andrea. How do you bounce back from failure? Well, I mean, one is to, you have to look at how we define failure, what that really means. But, sometimes it's just a matter of just embracing it and accepting that sometimes it didn't go the way you wanted. But then there's a way to understand, try to find gratitude in that moment. What did you learn from it? Right? I've failed many times in my life, but some people don't like to use the word failure. I don't mind. I mean, I don't get thrown off, caught up in words and semantics. But like for me, number one, embracing the fact and accepting that it happened. Number two, what did I learn from it? Number three, who's my support network? And this again, where support and community comes into play. I might talk to my friends, I talk to my coach, I might talk to my coaching community, my circle, and that's where I bounce back. And the best way to bounce back is a good night's sleep, focusing on your brand, your why statement, and tomorrow's another day. And so I've learned through, and a perfect example is actually with my binge eating, right? I've learned that when it comes to binge eating, I have a process now. If I ever binge, number one, I assess the severity of the binge and I forgive myself. Number two, I try to then reduce the frequency of the binges. Number three, I try to transition back as quickly as I can to eating healthy again and getting back on track. And it often happens within that same night that I do it, otherwise the next day. And so I have a process, and then I reach out to my friends and I talk about it, hold myself accountable by admitting it to people. And so these are all things that I do to bounce back from any sort of failure or setbacks or challenges that we call them, and try to turn them into opportunities for learning and growth. I hope that helps. Relating back to your example of late Lenny and how many times it takes of repeated actions for the brand perception to change. Well, yeah, I mean, like again, branding, changing your brand and your perception of how you're branded takes time. But if you're focused on the outcome and what you're trying to do with it, and you have a goal and you keep yourself accountable, you'll get there. So if your goal is to wake up earlier, to not be late, if your goal is to be more positive, again, everything in your mindset and confidence is a muscle that you're training and building over time. And the more you practice it, practice makes what? permanent, as I said before. It makes permanent the skill that you have. So that's kind of what you should keep in mind. Let's see here. Okay. Any other questions about personal branding or what we talked about today? It's your chance. Just keep dancing. You're welcome to show your faces. Thank you, Bobby, for the week's journey. You've given me lots of inspiration. Great. Okay, go ahead. Was there a question?
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I did take the my therapist had me take the Myers-Briggs test before, and I got ENFP, and then I took the Enneagram test. It was just an online one, but I took an Enneagram test like yesterday or the day before, and I keep getting that I'm extroverted, but I don't feel like I'm an extrovert. Like, I feel like I'm introverted. I don't know. Like, I like being around people. I like helping people, but I don't feel extroverted.
Well, I mean, the question I'll ask you is, do you know what level that puts you at? Because, you know, it's from 0 to 100. So me, I'm 100% extrovert. My wife, she's a 40, which means that sometimes she's on the extroverted side, depending on who she's with. Another time she feels introverted. She calls herself a social introvert, right? She really loves connecting with people, but only like 2 or 3 at a time, not very many people. So it may be where the range is, right? I mean, maybe you're somewhere in the middle. And so maybe that's why there's like, figure out where that is, because I'm curious. If it's like, you know, between 40 and 60, then that makes more sense that, you know, you're not sure whether you're on one side or the other. The number one way to really figure this out is, you know, how do you recharge your batteries? If it's alone time, then you're more introverted. If it's people recharge your batteries, then it's more extroverted. That makes sense. So for me, I want 6 of my friends to come over, and we'll have food and chill and talk and laugh. That charges me up. Not saying I don't like alone time. I do like alone time sometimes, especially now during COVID, because like it's hard to get away. But for me, that's the best way to charge my batteries. Whereas other people who are introverts, they prefer alone time. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay.
Just, can I add something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Melanie. This is a community.
Exactly. So now you're going to get the full brunt of it. So just where you mentioned the Enneagram, like, I don't think the Enneagram actually measures though introversion, extroversion. That's more of
Myers-Briggs.
emotional need type kind of thing. So what was your Enneagram type?
Yeah, I got Enneagram 8, and so when I was reading like the details underneath, I was like, I don't know, like it does describe me, but I don't know. Maybe I should take it again. Maybe I was just in a different mood at the time. I don't know.
Well, remember that, you know, personality assessments are just a guide. So that's why when I say in the process, if you do 3 personality assessments, look at the threads and themes that are consistent across all 3. If 2 assessments say you're analytical and the other one says you're a big picture thinker, it's not really as clear. But if all 3 of them say one thing, that's a little bit more empowering. Make sense? Now, I thought, Rebecca, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that I heard that I'm at the ENFP, which I am as well, that they're the most introverted of the extroverts. So
Really?
yeah, that's what I heard. So, wow. But of course, yeah. So like we're not I don't know which one is actually the most extroverted, but again, like Bobby said, it's a skill. Like there's a gray area, like everything, right? So totally look for the themes and not worry too much about it, and they can change day to day and year to year for sure. So yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, cool.
Can I stir the pot a bit?
Sure.
Personality tests are great, but I don't believe in them because that's just someone else's calculation to put you in sort of some kind of box, right? People that I've worked with and stuff like that kind of feel they're introvert or extrovert depending on their environment, right? So you need to find the path of least resistance to where you feel most comfortable, right? When you get there, you will know if you're an extrovert or an introvert, right? A lot of it we box ourselves in because of that whole fear of judgment. Oh, if I do this, what are people going to think? And that just kind of adds over time, and you put yourself in this box. But it's more of an internal discovery of trying to figure out what works for you and what doesn't, and always lean towards what works for you, right? If being in a community like this and having fun, Bobby, lead us, Captain. And it because here's the thing, we're in this community now, and I've only been here for like not that long, but we are already talking about subject matter that's very intimate. Because you wouldn't be talking about this stuff with other people or anyone for that matter if you didn't feel comfortable. You see what I'm saying? And that's one thing. And I'm gonna praise you again, bro, because that's one of the gifts that you have. You have this magical gift of dissolving barriers and building healthy boundaries. That's what allows people like Chelsea to speak up and say, hey, look, I took this test. This is what it tells me. What's your feedback? What do you feel about this? How can this make it better for me? You know what I'm saying? So, not that I'm trying to stir the pot. I don't believe in those tests.
No, I appreciate that. And listen, and that's one of the reasons why I say they're just guidelines. They're not meant to box you in anywhere. Nothing should really do that for you. You're the one that determines what you feel makes sense. And the thing is, when you go through the whole process and go through the journey, you're gonna get excited. Like like when I saw my whole thing on a page, I was like, oh, and I was like, I was shaking, I was quivering. I was like, oh my God, I started to see my life unfold in the next year and beyond. And that was 15 years ago when I became a speaker. And I was just like, yes, this is it. This totally makes sense. When I came with my why statement, I was like, oh man, like I was so excited. It's a really an incredible process when you actually get through it and get to those places, right? Because it's validated by so many people. Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to say that, yeah, I agree with what you're saying about the test, and that for me, it gives you some good language too. Like even it comes up with all these things, and you can take some of the words to put in, like, to start describing yourself. But some of the words you're going to be like, no, that doesn't apply to me, even though they say it does. But I like to see all the words they use. You know what I mean? Like communicator, yes, that's me. Or this other word, not so much, even though they say it is. I just personally like to see the way people explain things, and you can take what you want and use that in your branding or in your stories, and then just leave whatever doesn't work. I think that's a good way to use it too.
That's a good point. Oftentimes the descriptions of these assessments, they have these great phrases. Like, oh, that's a good phrase.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. Yeah.
Just use it for that at least. Question for you, Bobby. If we're struggling to figure out like the story, the themes, all the things, the branding, do you think you can still be successful? I mean, or do you have to wait till you have it all figured out?
No, I mean, you don't have to wait. I mean, one of the things that I talk to a lot of people about things that, putting content out there and putting things out there, work on your mindset and putting stuff out there is a great way to get feedback, to crowdsource, to evaluate it and see what resonates. Throw it out there, see what sticks, see what doesn't stick, as you're continuing to work on the foundations, right? And so you can still do those things at the same time. So often when I work with people, when I work with people in the speaker mastermind, I say, don't go out there and start getting speaking gigs. We're still working on the foundation of the materials, but you can still go out there and do stuff. Same with your branding, same with your business building, same with your career building. There are things you can do out there tactically to put stuff out there and start, seeing what sticks. And meanwhile, you're still working on that foundation. So they can be done at the same time, concurrently. Absolutely. Don't wait, because that's another excuse. I'm waiting for everything to be just perfect.
I know.
What's just perfect? My website, my video, and then I'm going to do it. And I can tell you, I'll share a story with one of my friends. She joined my personal branding event, the first one I ever did in 2013, and she and I became good friends. And for 4 years, I watched her analyze and read books. And she's a learner, right? According to StrengthsFinder, she was a super learner reader, right? She read everything. Took her forever. And then I just kept saying, can you just put something out there? Like put a post, do a webinar,
do one, something.
Just do one, because you're so articulate, you're so smart. Like I just love the way you talk about this stuff. And she was actually a relationship breakup coach. And it just took her forever to finally put stuff out there. And then finally, she started doing it a little bit more. And then pretty much next thing you know, she's on Good Morning America. And then she's on the Wall Street Journal. And I was like, oh my God. And,
that's amazing.
And I just called her. But the first couple of years, she was still struggling with her mindset, confidence around her pricing point, things like that. And I was like, you're exhausting yourself. You need to scale your business, raise your prices. If you're overbooked, it's okay to raise your prices. I said, I give you permission. And so And then she just called me actually a couple weeks ago. She said that, 2020, even though it was a terrible year for a lot of people, she for the first time hit six figures. And
Amazing.
all because, she started really putting herself out there, having a strong brand, being clear, and it's been amazing. So, but yeah, it took her forever. Like it took her 4 or 5 years before she started really doing the stuff that she needed to do to get herself out there. Any other questions or comments? I know what some people are leaving to go to analysis process is really difficult. Thanks, Debbie. I appreciate that. It's a big challenge for a lot of people, whether they're entrepreneurs or even in their career. They're like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? No, sometimes you have to go do it. And that's when the magic happens. Any other? Yeah, go ahead, Melanie.
I had one other comment about when you were talking about emotional maturity.
Yeah.
So I've been reading up a lot lately and following certain, I would say, thought leaders.
Yeah.
More like the concept of the ego and ego work. So when you said emotional maturity, it's, not making decisions influenced by emotion. I was like, I don't know if that's quite true, because I think it's more being able to, like, emotion is good. It's being able to distinguish the ego from that, and whether it's your true emotion or a story you're telling yourself about that kind of thing, So
Yeah. I think where I was going with that is the idea that don't make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. There's some big decisions out there that and it's like, oh, I can't believe you didn't wash dishes. I'm out of here, divorce.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work. And so it's just to be mindful of those things. But yeah, I think your point is really noted.
Well, I feel like I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just new to the scene, but I feel like the ego work is now replacing the term emotional maturity.
Yeah, I know.
That's kind of the new way of talking about it, So.
Yeah, and my thoughts on ego. I think healthy ego is really good for ambition and creativity and innovation. So some of the best entrepreneurs and musicians and performers have some ego that drives their confidence. And so I just like competition and confidence and ego, there are healthy versions and there are toxic versions. And so it's important to be mindful of that in terms of whether it's healthy or it's toxic.
Yeah. And that's in my experience what the Enneagram does.
Yeah.
You identify where you are on that scale. So
yeah, I agree. Anybody else? You seem no questions today. You love questions. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But anyone else have any questions or comments, things you want to ask? I'm making myself available, so I want to make sure that I do that. Anybody else? Any comments, thoughts? Tearful goodbye. Or are we going to get together again? I don't know. We'll see. But it's been a real pleasure to. Some of you have been here every day. It's been great. I mean, I've really enjoyed this, and I appreciate the people giving me feedback, which is awesome. So people give me some good feedback, which is great. So I appreciate that too. And I'm just really delighted to have collaborated with all of you guys, and the posts on LinkedIn and Instagram and whatnot. That's been good too. And again, you have the links and you have all the information. We'll send out. Obviously, I'll send you the replay and the review of the homeworks and all that kind of stuff tonight, so you get that. And if you have any other questions, this is the last time before our tearful goodbye. We play that song, closing time, as we all leave. Anything else? Thank you so much. This has been so helpful. Thank you. Okay, I see.
Can I email you with one follow-up question about signing up for this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, please do. I mean, there's no time pressure except for March 1st. So think about it. I definitely think be mindful of your mindset and where it's at and what you want to do and where you want to go. But like for the most part, just if you have questions, message me, check out all the information. But yeah, I mean, I'm here to help you get to where you want to go, and we do it together. So just email me if you want to. No problem, Melanie.
Yeah, perfect.
Bobby, can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Is there a process or anything you recommend to figure out our stories? Because you gave me a very good guideline for the other day, what happened.
Yeah.
But to kind of, and to tell you where I am is, I feel like my success stories are things like, I'm originally from Turkey. So, from coming from a third world country, with a bunch of challenges that I created opportunities for myself to work in the US and in Europe, but my target market is the US. So, and they cannot really relate to those things. So like if I targeted international people, that would have been really inspirational. But so when I'm thinking of like kind of personal stories and like also success stories to talk about, those are the things I'm thinking about, and they don't apply to the American audience, so it's not something they can relate to. So I'm curious, what you suggest is creating as those stories that I can write, kind of, let's say, every day, that would also establish my thought leadership in a way, because for me it's more about Instagram and LinkedIn, but that's not what I should be talking about all the time. So I'm just like curious, how do you find those other stories to write about?
Well, I mean, when it comes to creating, so I talked about the framework for doing a lifeline for your stories, right? And so that lifeline or that life map really gives you a ton of fodder for building stories. That's one. The second thing is crowdsourcing and knowing your target audience also gives you an insight into kind of who they are, how they feel, what are their pain points, what are their bliss points. And that's actually another source of content that you can create for them. And then third, I think that if you create like an avatar, or if you just think about your daily routine, it's very easy to start. If you look at even your daily routine, like today, I look at my daily routine. What are the moments in my day that were learning for me, or a struggle, or a challenge, or an issue, or stressful, or whatever it might be. And every single one of them becomes something that I can turn into a story. Perfect example. Last night, I presented to you guys and I told you that I was going to do something around networking, but I changed it. And I talked about the challenge of connection in this new world. And I did that last minute on that day yesterday. I did a post about it on LinkedIn this morning to talk about it, because it was an interesting thing that I did, and I was curious about sharing that message with the world. So again, when I work with you, I mean, one of the things we'll find is we're going to discover an entire database of stories for you that you can share. And you can even start creating a database of stories to share with your main target audience, as well as an external or a new type of audience if you want to just generate new leads with people and tell stories about something else. I mean, if I want to attract engineers to my programs, I might start telling stories about my days as an engineer and relating it back to networking and branding and relationship building. That's what I might do. Okay, so those are things that I could do as well. So I mean, I hope that answers your question. I mean, I want to make sure that I answered it, but these are some ideas that I would have to try to support you on that.
Okay, yes, because the question that comes a lot to my mind is that when I notice other people, people who have successful personal brands, and even marketers, I see that they created their personal brand more with a social cause, like a social cause they believe in.
Okay.
So, and I mean, I'm a huge believer of personal development. Actually, like every time I want to make a post on LinkedIn and other places, I always find myself right about mindset, because I think that really determines everything. And I did quite some work in that. So I'm super interested. But I had the impression that for me to build my personal brand as an Instagram and LinkedIn expert, like more, let's say, the lead generator, the person who can help you attract your ideal clients on LinkedIn and Instagram, I need to be like more writing tips about Instagram and LinkedIn. Whereas I saw that I was, tending really more to talk about the mindset things. And when I just recently, at the clubhouse and stuff, when I noticed, for example, the big marketers, I got the impression that actually they did their TED Talks not about marketing, you know, and not even just the TED Talks, but like they got, let's say, featured in those major magazines, or they did the TED Talks, or anything that really gave them this authority, more because they chose a subject in, you know, either mental health or, you know, some social cause. That's what I noticed. And I'm curious, like, do you think I am noticing something that's correct? Because like, if that's the case, I mean, I would love to write more about mental health and mindset. And I would love to, you know, do a TED talk much rather about this, because I'm super passionate about it. You know, the things that I went through, things I learned. I worked with Tony Robbins and stuff as well, and I really believe I can contribute there. But you know, so my question is, like, I used to think that talking about that would then, you know, it may put me as the thought leader and expert of mindset, and not then Instagram or LinkedIn. So I'm curious, like, what you suggest talking about? Like, would you say no? I mean, that's good. So you actually even have to find a social cause to attach your brand to, and you're much better off talking about that? Or are you saying it will confuse people? No, just stick to Instagram and LinkedIn primarily, and sometimes do social.
So there's a lot of layers here, but let me say that you don't have to have a social cause to build a strong thought leadership brand for yourself. Number one, there are people out there who've done that without doing that. Number two, we've seen in the last 4 years, as well as mostly the last year, thought leaders and brands out there talking more about very vulnerable things. And that doesn't mean that, so if Tim Ferriss talks about mental health challenges, and Brené Brown talks about Black Lives Matter, that doesn't take away from the brand. It just adds more to who they are as a person, what they believe in. But they still do the main things that they're doing and helping others with their thought leadership brand and expertise that they do. So, I think it's perfectly all right for you to talk about mental health if you want to, as something that's part of your overall story and who you are and what you care about. And I said before on day 2, when we talked about building valuable content, is the 80-20 rule. 80% of your content should be on brand, on focus for your target audience. But the other 20%, you can be creative. You can try something different. You can talk about things you're passionate about, or that are maybe outside of what you normally would talk about. So what I would say to that is that to your question, yes, you can do that. You can do it. You can actually build a brand around being an expert on Instagram and all that. But you can also talk a bit about the mental health challenges that you see, and if there's ways to even integrate them and seamlessly integrate them as part of your overall brand. So for me, when I talk about my food addiction, things like that, but I use it as a narrative to talk about the importance of confidence, mindset, as a personal branding. Oh, hi. I love when kids show up. But so I use that as part of the narrative to share the overall story and brand of how I want to help people. So you can totally do that. Good question. Any other? There's my son. Okay, my daughter. Hi guys. Any other questions? My kids. All right, Michelle. Thank you. This has been a very extremely valuable week. Thank you very much, Bobby. I invite you to connection on LinkedIn. See you all there. I've already made great connections. Looking forward to watching the evolution of your brands. Cool. Thank you. Any other last minute questions, or we'll sign off? I mean, I want to make myself available, but I see Debbie, Davina, you haven't said, feel free to ask a question. Felicia's already asked some questions. Chelsea, Rebecca, Nina, Nadeem, anybody else?
I add to the last conversation.
Yeah, sure, Nadeem, go ahead.
Is because the one thing that stuck out that was mentioned was that all of these guys that are in the clubhouse are leaders and influential people. They talk about mindset because they understand the value and the importance of having the right mindset, right? Which further, when you take that conversation to a deeper level, they're able to separate the fact that Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn is a platform. It's a piece of technology, right? And just because you're on those platforms and just because everybody else is doing what they're doing does not mean that you have to change or alter your own voice. And your voice is obviously directly connected to your personal brand. In hindsight, if you look at their profiles, or if you ever get a chance to read some of their autobiographies, you'll notice that they spent an enormous amount of time, energy, and effort to establish their personal brand, which allows them to talk about other things. Right? Often in this process, we get impatient and we jump on the shiny train, the shiny object train. Oh, this person's doing this, let me go do that. No, this person's doing that, let me go do this. And one of the biggest things that I've learned from Bobby is to have the patience, stick through with what you're doing, and kind of like have blinders on, right? Like, don't worry about what everybody else is doing until you've actually figured out what your voice is. So if you find yourself being drawn into talking about a lot of the mindset stuff on social media, well, then you're starting to discover that, okay, that's what I'm really passionate about. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm naturally good at writing about or communicating about. So maybe that's something you want to consider to be a part of your voice, a part of your personal brand. So when you think about Yassine, people think, hey, I need help with my mindset. So those two things are running a parallel. They're not going to say, I need a social media expert. Does that make sense?
Yeah, good point. I appreciate that. And Yassine, I see, and was anyone else going to say something? Was there someone else? Just to make sure. Chelsea, Rebecca, Debbie, Felicia, Divina, my son Niall. Niall, you have a question? Go for it.
What's for dinner?
Well, we'll get. We'll.
He was a good helper, right?
Yeah. All right. What are you making for us? That's exciting. All right. Well, that being said, I may have to leave soon. Yassine, your hand's still up. Do you have another question you want to ask? Or are you okay?
Yes, just before that, so your answer to me before was keep the mindset stuff to 20% and talk 80% more on the social media part, right? That's what you said.
Wow, I mean that's just a principle or a guideline.
Yeah. Okay.
And to Nadim's point, if you want to start talking 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% mindset, then maybe that becomes your new brand, right? That evolves.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. No. I mean, that's what I tend to do. But so the question I wanted to ask you is actually even maybe related to the other one, because I am told that when I say I am a LinkedIn and Instagram strategist, or let's say expert, I don't like the word expert because, how can you ever be an expert? But anyway, when I choose two, LinkedIn and Instagram, that's wrong. That because like if somebody sees a LinkedIn expert, they will prefer that person over me because I chose to. Do you agree? Do you think I should choose one? That's why I was asking you about the mindset too, because I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to even be talking about mindset, then maybe people will be like, wait, is she about mindset or Instagram or LinkedIn? Too confusing. Like, would that be the case?
So, I mean, the general rule is the more strongly and clear and niche your target audience and expertise is, the better it usually is in terms of attracting those types of clients. Because there's a risk that they say, well, this person's a LinkedIn expert, and this other person is LinkedIn Instagram expert. Maybe they're more Instagram, so I won't hire them. So there is a risk of that. I mean, there's other ways to position yourself in terms of saying I'm a digital marketing expert, and with success on these multiple platforms. So I don't call myself, I don't talk about myself as a LinkedIn or Twitter expert. I just say I'm a digital marketing expert, right? Because I have expertise across all the platforms, including now Clubhouse, which I can talk about, I can help people with. So there's something there, but you have to decide what works best for you. The most important thing is to talk to your target audience and look at where the revenue's coming in. If the majority of the revenue is coming in from Instagram, then maybe you should focus on just Instagram and build that business up, right? Because that's something that's going to come to play as well, right?
No, for me, it's like more LinkedIn, but then, just like with Instagram, especially with the Clubhouse, you see like a lot of people are asking. So I'm like, okay, in the meantime, I'm going to say both, and then I will let time decide. So does that still like mean that you say, okay, the mindset part, because I haven't fully understood what you and that gentleman who was helping, thank you very much, was recommending. Are you and him saying, if you feel like talking about mindset, go ahead and talk about it 60% if you feel like talking about 60%? Or are you saying, no, you want to be known as the LinkedIn and Instagram person, you need to make sure that you talk majority of the time about that, and then keep the mindset stuff less?
So I think what we're both saying is that you have to take the time to dive in and understand exactly what it is you want to focus on for your brand, how you want to build your business, and where you want to niche. And so you start putting content out there, you start talking to people, you start building relationships, you start putting that thought leadership brand out there. But if things start to evolve in a way that you start to be talking more about mindset or more about LinkedIn or more about Instagram, or something starts to develop more, then you may want to explore pivoting. Perfect example is myself, right? So before COVID hit, I talked about employee engagement, I talked about personal branding, and I talked about authentic connection, things like that. And what I found as I started putting stuff out there and doing webinars and whatnot, storytelling just popped up as something that was really, really good. I was a speaker and I wasn't speaking anymore on the stages. So I have this ability to tell great stories, and I'm a TEDx speaker. So maybe start talking about that. And next thing you know, people started really responding to that storytelling workshop. And so I pivoted a little bit. I adjusted, I evolved. And now it's part of everything I do under thought leadership branding. So that's how you evolve. I mean, you put stuff out there, you keep analyzing it, you keep listening to your audience, and you start to understand where things should go. So you have to kind of go with it and then see what happens.
Can I just add something really quick?
Yeah, please, Rebecca, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I was thinking when I think it was Nadeem and you too, what you're saying now, Bobby, is that like if you feel like you want to put more stuff out about mindset, but you're into like social media, then you can definitely combine them. Like like for me, for example, like I have a Facebook community of almost like 1,000 coaches, brand new coaches. I'm a newer coach too, but I started a little group. And anyway, most of these coaches, including myself, have a fear of putting ourselves out there. And so it's all about your mindset and social media together. Like, it's just like, you could help someone who really struggles a lot with the mindset. Yep. And then you're doing social media, but you're focusing on people who just cannot get over this block, right? So there's people who don't care. They put themselves out there, but they still don't know Instagram. But then there's people who really struggle with mindset. So I feel like you might eventually find that there's like the synergy, that's just an example, but I think that's just go with it, right?
Yeah, go with it and see what sticks and evolve your brand and listen to your audience and see where the revenue's coming from. And I want to make sure we're mindful, because I think at some point I'm going to leave, but I want to make sure I answer Chelsea's question, which was, yes. What do you think about presenting your brand differently on different platforms? I think if you have the time and the energy to do that, then it can be very strategic and very helpful. But it's also hard, right? I mean, it's hard to do it all the time and be different across different platforms. But, like for me, I take my content that I put on LinkedIn, I adjust it slightly for Instagram. And then for Twitter and Facebook, I don't care, I just post it. Similar with YouTube, because for me, Instagram and LinkedIn are where I'm focusing my time and energy, but on Twitter and Facebook, I'm not, from a business development perspective. Certainly awareness building, that's fine. But some people, like, Gary Vaynerchuk is a good person to look at. If you look at his content across all the platforms, it's different. He changes it, but he has a machine behind it, right? And most of us are solopreneurs. We may have a virtual assistant, but we can't do that. So I think that you can present it differently, or create two very distinct brands across different platforms. Like, I know some people who've created very distinct
brands on
Instagram. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not trying to interrupt, but like, for example, like I have a gaming thing that I do, but it doesn't really go with social media marketing. So I kind of separated it because like it's more like people like my age. I'm not trying to like but you know what I mean? Like millennials mostly and Twitch,
Mhm.
it's like a whole thing. But like in the social media marketing world, that's not, you know, it doesn't really match up that well. So I kind of separated
so
it.
do you have two separate accounts for like Instagram?
Yeah, like I separated the Instagrams, I separated it on Facebook, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, should I keep going ahead with that? And then like
Well,
with
I mean,
TikTok,
let me ask you a question. Do you want to integrate them, or are you okay with this and you can just continue doing it, or are you exhausted?
I mean, I'm fine with keeping it separated. I
That's
just
fine. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. If you
Oh,
want to keep it
okay.
separate, yeah. Because you're serving two
Okay.
different target audiences. And if you're able to maintain two Facebook groups and two Instagram profiles, I think that's great. And if you actually end up if you ever end up on LinkedIn, you create what I would suggest for LinkedIn is you have your personal profile on LinkedIn, which has everything. And then you have a company page, which is focused on that one thing, like maybe the gaming stuff that you want to talk about. And that's fine too. So it's totally fine to have different brands on different manager platforms. Okay. All right, good. I think at this point, if there's no other follow-up questions, I'm going to maybe head out now. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you for being here for the last 5 days. And if you join our community and want to work with us, I will be grateful. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to help you get to where you want to go. Okay. So wishing you all the best.
Thanks.
So long. Good night.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. It's been
Thanks so much.
awesome.
Awesome. Thanks. Talk about it on social media.
Yeah,
Okay.
bye.
Bye.